Hello and welcome to the Pulse. Chelsea 2, Watford 1. A long evening at Vicarage Road, but one we've come away with 3 points, Jay.
Oh, my God. I thought Sam summed it up very well. Take the 3 points, scurry home and look forward to West Ham, because it was one of those games that there's nothing I can look at and go, that was good. Most of it was, including injuries. We saw Trevor walk off. There's been a number of players there that didn't play particularly well. But you know what? Right now, it really doesn't matter. Of course it matters. You want to play well every game, right? But just take the 3 points and get yourself home. That's the best I can say. It
kind of screams, doesn't it? That massive squad we were talking about at the start of the season, that's strong in depth and being quite fortunate with injuries the first period of the season. You know, Trevor's obviously gone off with a knock today. We know we're without Chile, without Reece for tonight as well, and Lukaku's still coming back. Now he's really paying to the point that, you know, it's just as well we've got 25 players we can rely on, because there's a lot of squads that couldn't cope with the amount of absences that we've got now.
Indeed. And it brings back to my point earlier about how many games we're playing and how many the games the players are playing and international games and all this. It all just adds up. And yeah, it was a real shame to see Trevor come off today, especially when he kind of stepped into midfield and was doing his thing there. Hopefully it's not a long one, depending on how it is. We'll find out obviously in due course. But yeah, I mean, Thomas Tuchel made the substitutions. I think at times we were baffled at what formation who was playing where. It's Pulisic in the end playing right wing back, and Ziyech came on, and Ziyech I thought made a real big difference as well.
Match winner tonight, I mean, is largely down to Mason Mount. Goal and an assist for Mace. You know, I know you flagged him before the game. A player that I suppose probably not, you know, he's kind of not used to sitting on the bench, you know. Ever since he's come in under Frank, season and a half ago, he's been an ever-present, never misses a minute. So the fact that we've not seen a huge amount of him for injuries and obviously his wisdom teeth and stuff like that, it's good to see him back in the side and performing well. Yeah,
and I'm pleased for Mace. It's been quite a tricky season for him, actually. Even though we've been doing well, I don't think we've been particularly playing well. You know, I think there have been performances. Tonight is an example of that. But I'm pleased for Mace. He got his goal, got the assist, had an impact on the game, the end result. It was a tough tough evening there at Vicarage Road. You know, those lads there, they put in a shift and it was tough. Give credit to Watford. They probably feel as though they deserve something out of the game.
Yeah. But
it's players like Mace that just that little bit of difference when it matters. That cross, Lukaku's run. You made the point, Zach, when we watch it. It takes two defenders with him because he's such a big lad. They've got to make sure that stop the near post. In doing so, Mace, I think, recognises that, cuts it back, and then Ziyech is left with the simplest, not the simplest, but quite an easy task on his left foot to slot it home. But yeah, I'm pleased for Mace. He had a big impact on that game.
Like Jason said, Watford probably, you know, on another night would have got something from it. You know, you look at XG, if you could read anything into that, both less than 0.9 today. So it kind of tells a story that it is those fine balances, those middle differences, those little things that kind of make the play. And we've got quality within our squad that can do that.
Well, this is why you spend the big bucks, realistically. Like, you get these players in for big money to kind of, along with performing on the big days as well. But games like this where things aren't quite going your way, you're under the cosh, it's not going for you, you bring on your £100 million striker, your £30 million signing from Ajax, and they make a big difference as well. And that's also, not to mention, Thiago Silva came on. I thought defensively we seemed a lot more calmer when he was on that pitch. It's such a testament to how he is and how great of a footballer he is at the age of 37, I think, 38.
Yeah.
It was ridiculous. Just to think, I don't know what I'm going to be doing at that age. It's mental. But yeah, no, it was really, really impressive. And as I mentioned, I thought, yeah, Ziyech, like, kind of just, again, the change of formation as well. We went from a kind of three attacking with Pulisic and Mason Mount and Kai to then having a two up top with Romelu Lukaku and Kai up top. And again, like, he always seems to make the right decisions, Thomas Tuchel. Whether he maybe look at how he started with the squad, maybe he might look back and say, I made a bit too many changes or whatever. And we can look back on that later on, but he'll definitely come out of that, I guess, happy with his substitutions.
Especially because, you know, other results tonight, Liverpool have beaten Everton 4-1, City have won 2-1 away at Villa as well. So games around you, when they're getting results, when they're getting points, you've got to make sure that nights like tonight, because, you know, look, we've seen it previous years, previous games at Vicarage Road have proved to be a real test. You know, we know how good they can be, how good they've been in recent weeks as well against Manchester United. We've mentioned that, but teams like tonight, teams like Brentford, when we've gone there and we've not been at our best, you've got to find a way to get through them. And we spoke about it before the game. this is one that if you come out away with 3 points, you don't get any additional credit. You just kind of go, OK, fine. It's if you lose or you drop points tonight that when it comes to May and there's silverware being dished out, you look back at tonight and you've not managed to get over the line. So it's that important.
It is. And, you know, he shuffled his pack before the game, and I said to you before the game that we might win it off the bench, and that turned out to be the case. You know, that was exactly where we got that winner, and it's about finding a way, making substitutions. I thought that Saul had another very tough evening's work. Bringing on Thiago at the back wouldn't have been something I'd have done. I brought Jorginho on, but what he's done, he's kind of made the same difference, but in a slightly different way. Put Trevor in there. I hope Trevor's going to be okay because he's got that hammy injury, and he found a way to control the tempo of the game better than we were. First half, I thought they were much better than us. Second half, far more even. Again, give them credit. They probably feel they should have got something out of it. It's hard to disagree with that, but when you've got someone like Ziyech off the bench and then you've got Mace that's creating chances, you've got a chance against a side like Watford. But yeah, draw a line under this one. Do not go and buy this DVD. There is absolutely no point in going and watching the highlights back of this one. That wouldn't be my advice. Move on. Let's look forward to West Ham.
It's got shades of kind of Chelsea teams of the past. You know, defensively we look so good, you know. And I mean, the Emmanuel Dennis goal is a good goal. It takes the deflection off of Tony Rudiger. I'm not quite sure if Mendy gets it. Maybe if it doesn't come off of Rudiger's knee on the instep sort of thing. But it has very much got a stereotypical Chelsea, hard to beat. But it's that character, isn't it, to get yourself back in front after getting pegged back, and especially with everything going on, you know, the game being so stop-start and the massive delay within it. It's important to just get over the line like tonight, and that character that's shown again today, on top of coming from behind at the weekend. Thomas Tuchel will be pleased with that in terms of the mentality.
Yeah, I don't know if Chelsea 2 years ago do that today, come back and win, and we have added a level of character and the next level, a bit of grit when things are getting tough, that we can go out there and we can manage to score a goal and bag the 3 points in a game that could have maybe gone a completely different way, as I said, two years ago. Watford were very good out there, especially in that first half. As Jason mentioned, second half it came a bit more level. But I think, yeah, we have to give a shout out to Mendy because he made a fantastic kind of outside the box rush and kind of stopped cleverly from kind of going one-on-one with him. And so there were some performances out there where, okay, it may have not been the best for them, but Thiago Zola coming on, Mendy I thought was pretty good when he had to do the business. So overall, yeah, won't be saving this one for. I won't be telling the kids about this game, but yeah, no, we got the 3 points. That's all that matters.
Well, let's have a look at our reactions in the studio to the game unveiling. The difference as well. This is obviously Finish it! We said this before, right? Now, obviously, we don't get to see this on a regular basis because Jason's usually on commentary, but we had to switch the lights off because it had got too late. We've been here for an hour and 45 minutes and we've still got half an hour to play, so the lights have gone off. But watching the game with Jason, Ben will testify and Zach will now testify the bruising that you get.
I'm expecting this arm to be broken tomorrow.
And that was right at the end. I think that's when corners started to and this is the final whistle. A very tense entry.
Like you can hear me, right?
Jason's been booked on the touchline. The referee had enough of him, had enough of his noise. But it's one of those, like we said, it's one of those nights. And that tells a story in itself, doesn't it? The reaction from all of us. And Chelsea fans have been feeling the same way. God. You don't think before the game, with 3 or 4 minutes to go, you go and just blow up, referee. Just please blow up.
Especially when it gets to 96 and they've got a corner. There is nothing worse than conceding a goal in added time on top of added time.
Yeah.
You know, that is just the most a complete body blow. That, so just make sure when we cleared it, it's like the relief is absolutely palpable. You know.
And again, you know, we come back to it, but especially because the teams around you are picking up points. We've already seen that the gap between, because West Ham have dropped points tonight at home to Brighton, but that gap with the top three are now starting to break away and piece away a little bit. So it kind of adds the pressure on a little bit more, doesn't it? Because when it comes into sharp focus that you are competing with 2 other teams and you've got to match them stride for stride. And, you know, we've picked up points recently. We dropped points at the weekend. Liverpool looked formidable. Manchester City, again, brilliant as always, dealing with injuries. But We've got a busy period over Christmas, so have they. You have to get through games.
You do, and look, Liverpool and City have gone through these periods and not won this season against teams like this. The City one escapes my mind both of them do, but they have struggled.
Palace, didn't they?
Exactly, yes. They've struggled against these for games like this, and as much as, okay, we dominated Burnley and we came out of that a 1-1 draw and it felt like a 2 points drop, this one very much feels like 2 points gained, and so it levels itself out throughout the season. It's a long season, but games like this, making sure you pick up those points and then you get to the last 10 games of the season, make it a lot easier to put on a title challenge and battle for it. And we're up against the best, and so we've got to make sure we play very well as well.
And we're not really touched on it, but good to see Romelu Lukaku get some minutes. Looked sharp, looked fit, looked healthy.
A couple of chances, half chances. Link-up play looked OK. He will get better and better as the weeks go on. It's good to see him come off the bench, and we're all a bit concerned. I don't know, you guys are. I'm guessing just a little bit concerned about the fact that it has been a very slow introduction back. Partly, I suppose, down to the fact that we've not missed him as much in terms of goals. We've been winning matches and we've been scoring goals, but of course you're going to miss someone like Romelu, who's going to give us a little bit of a dimension, totally different up front. And we saw the goal that with the winner. He does actually, just his presence is enough to take two of those lads towards that near post and just leave a bit of space for Ziyech to walk onto.
But it's almost exactly what Thomas Tuchel was saying at the weekend. He said about the 10 minutes when he come on against Manchester United, didn't he, about him being a presence and being a kind of a thought process of you've got to mark Lukaku, you can't leave him free in the box. So that kind of proved exactly what he was saying when he come on tonight.
No, 100%. Look, Lukaku is one of the best strikers in the world, and as a defender, when you're being faced with marking him, it's not easy. Your whole focus has to be on, I can't let this man escape, I can't let him leave me, and sometimes you're doubling up on him, which, as we said, leaves a man free. And in this case, it was Ziyech who's had so much space and did a fantastic finish in the end to put it behind him. But it may not. That's the weird thing with strikers and stuff like this. Sometimes we very much look at goals and assists, and what you don't quite account for is what happened there. Like, I don't know. Maybe it would have happened, but if it was just Kai in that position, would have been two defenders on him, or would he have been marking that space? Who knows? We'll never quite find out. But we'll be happy that we've got Romelu Lukaku today. That's for sure.
Especially because, West Ham at the weekend, it's a big game. West Ham have been playing really well this season. They'll be disappointed with an 89th minute equaliser from Morphy tonight to drop 2 points. So it'll be more of a reaction. You go into it now, whereas, I don't know about you, but like we said, the concern about Romelu Lukaku is you don't want to rush him back, you don't want to force him back, you don't want to be in a position where you have to go, not sure he's ready for 45, but I have to play him. And potentially we could have been in that situation tonight. We weren't, thankfully, because of the minutes that he's got. But now you look at the weekend and, the question is, does he start? Because he's gaining minutes. But at the same time, if he doesn't start, Kai Havertz, I thought, done really well tonight. Mason Mount performed really well as well. Ziyech, again, has made an impact when he's come on. So we're not at that point yet. We have to rush players where other teams potentially are. Yeah,
and, we're not privy to the information that, how close is he really to starting. It's very different from what he's had the last two outings to playing a 90-minute game. The gaffer shuffled his pack today. He took a few risks and we got away with it. And I think we'll be the first to admit that the Saul, Ruben Loftus-Cheek double pivot didn't work. It doesn't look. It looks a little bit flimsy. You want, if you're going to start Saul in there, you probably want alongside N'Golo or Jorginho, who can control the game a different way, or maybe even cover. And also you think about the two wing backs, how we've waxed lyrical about Ben and Reece. I haven't got any of those at the moment. It was a very different, patched up team, and there was one or two risks taken in there, and he's come away with it smelling of roses.
That's it, isn't it? It's about getting through it and getting a result at the end of the day. You speak about Ruben in the middle of the park as well, 90 minutes for Ruben, which, again, we haven't seen a huge amount of in a Chelsea shirt for a long time. So that'll be a positive that comes out of tonight because, he's coming through it and we hope that Trevor's OK. But other than Trevor, relatively unscathed injury-wise, we'll see. Obviously, it looked like a bit of a hamstring, didn't it? But we'll look at that.
Yes.
And I suppose you would say, Trevor stepping into the middle of the park is another option that we've got in there if need be, if he needs it. So there are moments that I think, we've learnt a lot tonight. And the fact we come away with 3 points on top of it is kind of all you really could ask for from this evening, couldn't you? Yeah,
I mean, every Chelsea game is a learning point in some way, shape or form. I think it also is really good that we've been able to give Reece a full game rest. Like, when Reece is on his top of his form, he's at times, there's an argument for being the best right-back in the league or the world, and he's definitely up there with Trent and Kyle Walker and Cancelo for full-back and Robertson. And so hopefully he's now fully fit and ready for Saturday, because we need it. Like, I very much doubt we'll see, as rotated team as we did today for the game against West Ham. We'll have a very strong outfit out there. And that includes Reece James, and so hopefully he'll be able to rest these guys. And then also getting 3 points in those games, it's a massive plus for Chelsea.
Wonder as well maybe if tonight's a little bit of a test, because you look at the midweek games that we've got sort of now until the new year. You've got Zenit in the Champions League, already qualified. Obviously, you want to top the group. We've already qualified. The hard work's done there. You've got Brentford the week of Christmas in the Carabao Cup, and then you've got Everton on a Thursday night before a Sunday turnaround. So you'd look at those three and you'd say Everton's the tough one, because the other two cup competitions usually you see a fair amount of rotation. But maybe tonight is a bit of a testing ground to see who's ready to play and who can play 2 games a week, and maybe if we don't need to rush players.
Yeah, and we again the medical team and the guys, the sports scientists will be looking at the red zone, how many minutes they played and when they're entering that red zone or potentially could get in there. Interesting, he refused to play Jorginho tonight. I thought that was quite telling, and he's had a lot of football, not just recently, but you go back in the last 18 months.
Club and country,
how much he's played. So that might be one of those little red flags that appears. Lukaku's had time off, enforced, unfortunately, and there's 1 or 2 other players that haven't been involved for various different reasons. But when you get your chance, and this goes back to Saul again, it's so important that you do leave an impression. And unfortunately, the games that he's played in the Premier League, he's got hooked into. Felt a bit sorry for him today, because that's tough. That's a tough place to go when you're under strength and you're playing against a side that's actually had 1 or 2 decent performances recently. But yeah, that's could be a long way back for him right now.
That acclimatisation, though, we spoke about it at depth last year with players that have come in during COVID, and you've got to buy into a new city, a new culture, a new system, a new team, everything like that. There's plenty of games over Christmas. There's plenty of time for Saul to really implement himself as a first-team starter. There's no doubt in his ability and his quality. I mean, you don't play as many games for Atletico Madrid and get to the competitions and finals that he has, and the accolades and also the people that back him as much as they do, because we know if you've watched any football how good he is and how good he can be on the ball. It may just take 1 game to click, mightn't it? And you look at Zenit next week in the Champions League. That's another opportunity potentially that he'll get. You've got even West Ham at the weekend. There's so much ability in there, you're not going to have a 10 out of 10 game. But like Jason said, I think it was a difficult evening. That it's not a bad performance from him. And perhaps if you've not watched the game, sort of the 45, it's difficult when a player gets hooked at half time. But he's certainly not a sort of a negative against him. There's still plenty of time. Yeah,
no, for sure. I mean, it's different for different footballers. Some footballers it clicks straight away. Some it takes 6 months. Some it can take a year. And for him, he's also a footballer that hadn't been playing much in the last season for Atletico Madrid as well. So he hasn't even got that consistency to back himself up on. And sometimes with football, there's only so much training can do. You really test yourself when you're playing 90 minutes out there on the pitch, and he hasn't had that just yet. So maybe if he got in the 45 today, then against Zenit, that consistency and a bit of regular understanding of what's happening may help him quite a lot. I feel it was not a midfield that I would have guessed to have started, to be quite honest, and maybe if he's partnered with maybe a Jorginho, a Kanté, he can find it a little bit easier, because then there's a bit more kind of idea of how they're going to be playing their football.
I suppose that's the difficulty, isn't it? Because when you are a player that's, sort of on the fringes coming into a team, especially in that midfield. I mean, you're talking about N'Golo Kanté and Jorginho have been this week named in the top 5 players in the world. You've got Mateo Kovacic, who 18 months ago was Chelsea's player of the season and is phenomenal when he plays. Ruben's made an impression when he's come in as well. So you're talking about probably the most competitive midfield in world football at the moment. And when you are getting sort of fits and starts and not really given an opportunity to start a consistent run of games, it's probably a little bit unfair on our perspective as Chelsea fans to expect that of him just yet. It's going to take time. It's going to take acclimatisation and accommodation, and perhaps the injuries and the run of fixtures gives him that opportunity to do that. And we could be sitting here in a month's time and saying that we did it with when Thomas Tuchel come in, we couldn't find a way N'Golo Kanté gets back in the side. And then all of a sudden he is. And then you go, how does Kova get back in? How does Jorginho get in? We could be having this exact conversation in a month saying, how does any of those get in? Because Saul's been phenomenal. It could happen.
Yeah, I wouldn't bank on it right now, because I don't think he gets back into the team anytime soon. And that's the problem. I think he's had his chance. And again, I felt, because it just, everything seems chaotic in front of him. There's not a lot of composure about his game, and that's something I remember about him. I remember seeing a very composed. It wasn't a lot he couldn't do. Nice left foot, stroke his passes. Right now, his introduction to Premier League life has been the worst you can think of. In the middle of the park, there's no time to rest, on your first touch, squeezing on up the pitch. Atleti maybe is a little bit different, a slower pace of game. You know, and I do feel for him. You know, I've got a lot of sympathy because it's a tough league. This is a tough team. You're absolutely right. This midfield is fierce. The competition is fierce. You can have 2 or 3 iffy games and all of a sudden you're at the back of the queue again. Trevor came in the middle of the park instead of him. You know, that was a substitution he consciously made to put Trevor in there and take off Saul. So he's now got Trevor potentially, if the game's going on around him, to come up against as well. It's a tough one. And I hope you're right. I hope we are very soon talking about Saul in the middle of the park, playing well, doing what he's good at, but it's been a very tough introduction to him.
It's a tough introduction to December for Chelsea as well. Plenty coming up over the next couple of days on the 5th Standout. Make sure you join us for it on Friday. PL2 Live, we were at Derby at 5 to 7. Should be a good one. PL2 team playing really well at the moment as well. Lots of Chelsea players and future Chelsea players that you need to keep an eye on for that one. And then Friday afternoon, Thomas Tuchel speaking to the press ahead of an away day, London Derby against West Ham United, and Saturday 11:25. Join us on Matchday Live for that one. A big top 4 battle. Top 4 battle with West Ham, isn't it?
That's going to be tasty. I can feel that'll be a very different game than what we saw today.
Yeah. Very much looking forward to it. Boys, brilliant as always.
Cheers,
Thank you very much. Nice one. Thank you very much for joining us. Plenty of football on the way and a big London Derby at the weekend. So enjoy the rest of your week. 3 points in the bag. We'll take it. Have a good night.